Hello, my name is Aaron van Wirdum, or Aaron van Wirdum, if you're English. I work for Bitcoin Magazine. I'm also the author of the Genesis book, which is my upcoming book about the origin story of Bitcoin, which I also open sourced, by the way, half a year ago. I'm gonna let the panelists introduce themselves. How many do we have? One mic, and you have a handheld headset. That's what's up.
Yeah,
All right.
I can pass on, Mike.
Yes, that would be the idea.
Look at
Well,
this.
no, we have at
You
least
have
one
one
mic,
more.
right?
Yeah,
Check, check. Yes.
there you go.
All right. Rockstar, you're up.
I'm a Rockstar dev. I'm a FOSS contributor and advocate. Most people know me from my work on BTC Pay server, but some of you may know me from my contributions to Strike, advising Bitcoin companies, VC funds, contributing to Bitcoin any way I can. So yeah, that's me.
One remark for the tech team in the corner. There's no clock here running yet. Can we get a clock, please?
It's up there. Let's
Yeah, but
start
this
it.
is not running either.
Boom.
Now it's running. There we go.
I'm Gabriele, and I co-founded the Bitpolito student team in my university 3.5 years ago. And since 1 year, I'm working on Stratum V2, which I hope you all know.
Yeah, you can explain what it is in a minute after we do the whole panel.
Stratum
first.
V2, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's...
No, in a minute.
in a minute.
Yes.
Got rock pulled. My name is Abubakar Khalil. I'm an open source contributor, so started off in the space basically working on Bitcoin Core, so both PRs and reviewing code. And my focus kind of shifted into getting more developers specifically from Africa, hence the creation of Gala alongside a few other developers. And so far I managed to train more than 400 African developers. Out of that, I'd say around 10 work in open source, specifically Vlad that works on BDK. We also have another Abubakar in the space who works on Bitcoin Core and is already part of the Bitcoin Core repo. So yeah, my work involves really just helping out with Bitcoin Core or training devs really, so we can have more African devs basically in Bitcoin.
Hi everyone, I'm Daniela. I'm a developer. I worked in many different companies in Bitcoin actually, because I worked in Blockstream, in Brains, in Wizard Sardine. But right now I have a grant from Spiral and I work full-time on Bitcoin Dev Kit. I guess we're going to talk a bit more about it later, but yeah, it's just a really cool project on Bitcoin, and yeah, I did that full time. Also, I'm a co-founder of HackBS, which is an hackerspace, like a physical space where people meet and they can share knowledge and just spend some time together hacking, coding, etc. So yeah.
All right, so some of you already revealed a little bit, but let's start with sort of a personal story of how you guys got involved in free and open source development. And if you want, you can also now talk a little bit more about your project once you have the mic.
Yes.
Let's start. Yeah, let's do the other way around now. So how
Okay,
did you get
okay.
started in free and open source development?
So actually, I studied computer science in school, and then I started coding in Blockstream, but I was working on some closed source projects. So I started working in Bitcoin in 2019. After a couple of months, some people in Blockstream started working on Bitcoin Dev Kit, and so I started helping them out a little bit. I worked mainly on the BDK coin selection at first. I just took that part of the code. It looked really fun, full of algorithms. So I just did that, and I helped a little bit. But then I found a full-time job at Brains. So I started contributing a bit less, simply because I had 40 hours a week to give to Brains, and so I didn't have much time left, unfortunately.
So that was basically your free time working on it.
Yeah, exactly. Then after leaving Brains, I joined Wizard Sardine, and there I worked on the Revolt protocol, which is fully open source. And while working on Revolt, my boss would really encourage me to also contribute to other open source projects, simply because it's a way to get to know other people, to share knowledge, and to learn a lot of things. And so there I did like a small contribution on Bitcoin Core, but then decided that it wasn't really my thing. I didn't know C++. So yeah, I did small contribution Bitcoin Core, started contributing to BDK a bit more. And then the BDK team told me that they needed more people to work on it full time. And that's how I got my grant from Spiral.
Right.
Nice, nice. So I had a different path. So I was pretty much aimless after I left high school in 2016, and then started reading more about Bitcoin because, again, the price was shooting. A bunch of people were talking about it. So I figured reading about Bitcoin, I didn't know what the hell I was reading. Everything was going over my head. So I was like, okay, with all the free time I have, I might as well learn how to program and do all that kind of stuff. So I started teaching myself how to code, and then by like 2018-ish, 2019 was when I started really programming, like building a language, all that, Python, all that. And then towards the end of the year, I saw a pull request by a guy named Tim Akimbo. He was one of the first, I say, Bitcoin Core developers in Africa. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, that's pretty interesting. Might as well give that a shot too. So that's when I opened my first pull request. It got merged subsequently the next year. And then from 2020, I'd say the main priority for me has been kind of upskilling. So it involved not working, but having the chain code study group and being part of that. And that's where I met a lot of folks like Carla and some of the other folks in the space. So hence why we started Gala, the program where we train developers. And that has been, I'd say, rather successful given the fact of the output, folks like Vlad and Abubakar and some of the others. But then towards the end of 2021, I got the opportunity to be on a board of B-Trust, which is a not-for-profit that provides basically funding in the form of grants, sponsoring conferences, education-based programs. So that has also put me in a position where, obviously, personally, there's the process of contributing to Bitcoin Core as much as I can, as well as giving out grants and opportunities to folks that have the time to do the work, but would need, obviously, a sustainable way to maintain that. So that's kind of how I got into the space and kind of the work I'm involved with now. So it's trying to wear as many hats that are related as possible to have a lot of compounded effects on the ecosystem, basically.
Hey, you are from Nigeria,
Oh,
right?
yeah. That's where I'm based.
So the fund and the developers you're funding, are these also from Africa, or
Yeah,
are they
from Africa specifically.
Right, interesting. And did you say the first project you contributed to was Bitcoin Core?
Yeah.
So that I would assume that's a very steep learning curve.
Oh, it was steep,
I would
and
think.
I pretty much didn't know what I was doing, but it was a small change, and then over time I started digging deeper.
Right. Okay, Gabriele. Now's your chance
It's
to
my
elaborate.
chance. Yeah. As I said you before, I co-founded Bitpolito, which is a student team in our university in Polytechnic of Turin, Northern Italy, more than 3 years ago. And so I think that my path starts from that. We try to, since the beginning, grow the team and doing some research and development stuff in Bitcoin. And while doing that, I got into mining. So I was very interested since the beginning about this very important aspect of Bitcoin. And thanks to some scholarships in our university, I got the chance to develop some very specific projects about mining. And so my interest started to go up very fast. And while doing that, I was taking the courses in my university and do the exams and etc. And at the end, I had to write my thesis basically. So why not doing my thesis about Stratum V2? Because while I was developing and doing some research about mining in general, I got interested in Stratum V2, which, for who doesn't know, is the mining protocol who is currently used between the miners, so the mining machines, and the mining pool servers. And right now the protocol is called just Stratum, and we call Stratum V1 because we represent the upgraded version, so Stratum V2. But by the way, I think it's a very, very, very important project for all the Bitcoin community. And so basically, I started to dig into it deeply in the moment in which I started my thesis. So after some months, I started to contribute to work on the documentation, especially. And then, it's like 3 months, I got a grant to work full-time on it. I ended up my university path. So right now, I'm just doing that all the day.
Right. All right. Rockstar doesn't need the mic. Rockstar.
Yeah, Rockstar always equipped with the mic. Feel kind of, this is like uncle privileges. In preparation for this panel, I was very excited that, yeah, I am on panel with all our, great young FOSS contributors, especially because I was under assumption there will be a lot of students in the audience, and yeah, and
Are there any? Who's a student here?
prospective.
We got 2, 3, 4.
No. Oh, my dreams are now shattered. Like, are there any prospective FOSS contributors like that you would like to join FOSS and be as amazing as Daniela, Abubakar?
A couple.
Just
a couple.
one, two. Oh, well, we can just close it.
We can quit the
we
panel.
can just quit the panel. But no, for me, really, like when I look at what they've done, like I'm so in awe, because for me, like it took several iterations and identities to like get to the FOSS project, where actually like project itself became popular enough and known enough, like BTC Pay server, so that like I'm a FOSS contributor that's known in the space. Like I have contributed to the FOSS for over a decade, but I made a mistake always of like trying to do it too much myself, like starting a repository. While when I hear your stories, in each of that story, like it's a project that's known, and then there is someone who can add to your contributions, or you're reviewing PRs of someone. So that's really when I look at BTC Pay Server, which is really a software that allows anyone to be their own payment processor. That's where I see where success came for me, is because it wasn't just me, it was someone like Nicholas Dorier, who is a well-known Bitcoin contributor. And then that really allowed me to take my FOSS contributions to the next level. And that's what I wanted to talk to people, but since we only have 2 people.
No, we'll get there for all 3 of them.
Yeah,
But
I'll talk after. Yeah.
Did you work on other FOSS projects before?
I
BTC?
did, but it was under different identities, and then
so that's a secret.
Yeah.
You don't want to dox
disconnected
yourself yet.
from Rockstar. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so for these 3 people in the audience that were considering becoming a FOSS developer, what are the tips? How do you get started? What's the path to success here?
Yes.
Let's start. We'll go the other way around.
Yeah. So first of all, get your own mic. Like make sure that you have, so that you can talk all the time. You can
I made
others.
a good start.
Yeah. Beyond that, like just look that it is project that you feel very passionate about, because in all of the stories that I've heard from you, like it is something you're passionate about, and you will be good at it, because like Daniela, like I looked at Bitcoin Core, but just C++ is not my strong suite, so I wanted to focus on C#. And beyond the project, be passionate about people that are already on the project. Like, don't start your own thing just for the sake of ego, or like the best, unless you're an accomplished contributor that's already well known. Like I always advise, go for a project that's established, that has someone you admire in some way, you want to learn from. And if you have those 2 components of like passionate about project, passionate about people on the project, most cases, it will work out really well.
Gabriele, anything to add there?
I also agree totally. I think that in general, the passion is what distinguishes a developer who works exclusively or full-time, or the most of his time on FOSS projects, to a developer who works as a developer in a company or other. So the passion is the first thing, also because it allows you to be more connected, or not be more connected, but get more connection in a faster way, because other people can recognize your passion from what you do, from how you talk about it, your project, if you promote it, if you try to talk with anyone about your project. So that's the passion, the key thing. And at the same time, I can add that, in my opinion, also an important point is to don't feel scared about jumping in a new community, a new project. Just do it. For example, lots of FOSS projects have their own Discord server in which the community of the developers talk and discuss about the stuff to do. So don't feel free to jump in, for example, if you understand that a project can really interest in you, jump in the Discord server or try to look into the GitHub and to make the first connections. And yeah, feel free to propose yourself for whatever, doing documentation or very little tasks, but just to make the first connections. So yeah.
All right, Abubakar, maybe some Bitcoin Core specific advice. How does someone get involved with Bitcoin Core specifically?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of great points. I think sometimes as developers, there's this inadequacy, I guess, that we feel of like you're not up to that level to either jump into a conversation where there's an issue being tracked or open up a pull request. But like you said, one, this might sound interesting, but lurking in a repo really helps. So you have to really stalk the community like intensively. So looking at the GitHub repo itself, getting into the Discord servers, things around that, familiarizing yourself with the lingo, familiarizing yourself with kind of what the social conventions are, because not all projects are the same. Even though they're like docs on the repo saying how you should contribute, there are still a few things that are kind of like colloquial that you have to get into. Now with Bitcoin Core, the good thing is now we have a lot more avenues for people to go from they don't know what a block is all the way into being a core contributor. One of those methods, especially for Africans, if you're thinking about it from that perspective, is through Gala, which is a program we did now called B-Trust Builders. And really with that, the process is, depending on where you are in the pipeline, is kind of how you orient yourself. So if you're just a new developer learning how to code, it's a huge leap going from you don't know anything how to code and then trying to contribute to Bitcoin Core. So it's a case where you need to know exactly where you are at that point of the funnel. If you already know how to code, there are already programs, like I said, like B-Trust Builders or even Chain Code Study Group and some of the others too, where at least the understanding about what the project is trying to solve, basics, philosophical basics to around Bitcoin Core, things like that. But with Bitcoin Core more specifically, it's interesting because it's a really huge repo. It's a lot of activity. Doesn't seem that way because it's not sexy work most of the time. But the thing to prioritize going in is looking for low-hanging fruit. So there's a list of like good first issues typically that you can attack. They're really trivial. And if you already like C++, probably the best project you can work on. If you don't, then you'll probably have to scope down into testing, which a lot of it is Python. So even though the majority of the repo is written in C++, a good chunk of it is written in other languages that you can explore. But in general, try to get into the habit of reviewing code first before you publish code, because it's really, it gets pesky on the side of the core maintainers looking at a bunch of trivial changes most of the time. So try and be more productive as much as you can and don't be noisy. So if you're confused, reach out separately to different folks as opposed to like asking really, really insane, dumb questions that have probably been answered. But yeah, stay humble, try and learn as much as possible. If you're too comfortable, you're probably not growing. So try and put yourself in uncomfortable positions. I'd say those are like the major things to think about.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of really good points here. I want to add, I think usually we think about coding as this really, I don't know, you imagine a developer as this person isolated in their room, just coding by themselves. I want to emphasize how important relationships are in this job. And so I just want to say, if you want to get involved, try to also find friends and connect with the people that work on the project you're interested in, and also on other projects. Just go to conference, reach out to people, just be kind in general, obviously, and yeah, and just meet new people and learn stuff from them. And also, I mean, obviously that doesn't hold for everyone, but the majority of people are kind. So if you're confused about something, just reach out and ask. So if someone comes and they're like, hey, I can't understand this thing from BDK, can you explain to me? I would be so happy, like, oh my gosh, of course, because I love my job and I'm really happy about chatting about it. So yeah, in general, just focus on relationships, take part into courses like the Chain Code Lab seminars, or there are also other courses, I can't think of anyone right now, but there are others, I'm sure. Yeah, just, and also, as you said, focus on the long-hanging fruits. So if you want to focus on a project specifically, try to find the good first issues. Usually there are, like on every project, there are some issues that just, they're not as fun and so mundane as they tend to not do them. Like, I don't know, in my case specifically, I don't like writing documentation, I don't like writing tests. If someone comes and they write the documentation for me, I'm going to be so happy. So, I mean, of course, it's not as fun as building something new, but it's something you can do to just familiarize yourself with the whole code base. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I started on BTC Pay. I would just ask Nicholas, okay, what do you don't want to code? And he would just give me a bunch of issues. I was like, okay.
Right. All right. So we've now discussed how new developers can get started in projects. Let's turn it around now. How could the current developer community, or just the Bitcoin community in general, maybe get more developers involved? So what's the best way to attract new developers?
Like you organize a conference at which there in the audience there's like more than 3 prospective new FOSS contributors. We can do that. No, I'm joking.
How though?
I don't know. We need to get more students, but I think our numbers are up. Like, how many people want to contribute to FOSS now? See?
It's almost doubled. It's probably more than doubled, actually.
Keep going,
this
Daniela.
is a great panel.
Keep going. What do you think?
Daniela.
I think one very important part is also paying people for working. So obviously, if you're like a super new developer, you're not going to get paid because you wrote like 2 lines of documentation. But one thing we're trying to do in BDK is setting up some bounties, so some really easy task, not really easy, but kind of easy tasks that people can do and getting paid for it. And in that way, people are just, so if you're not working in open source full time, you're still really encouraged to spend a few hours each week just working on a project. But then, of course, you need to have enough funds. You need to have some way of, finding out who's like, who are the people that actually want to work on the project and who's there just for some easy money and blah, blah, blah. So it's not trivial at all, but I think it's a way to encourage people. And also I think mentoring is super important. So I actually have a mentor. She's Amiti. She's a Bitcoin Core contributor. She's not like my technical mentor in the sense that we don't work on the same topics. So if I have some question on peer-to-peer in Bitcoin Core, I can ask, of course. But she's helping me just navigate how to work in open source, how to manage my energy, how to contribute in a way that makes sense. And so, yeah, if you're a senior dev and you want to encourage people to work on open source, just finding some people to mentor, that's super, super helpful.
I'm glad you brought up that point. That was something we came to realize the hard way, really, with both Gala and Btrust builders as well as Btrust. Is very, very important to have mentors in the space. It's very easy for you to get into the cycle of you think you're making progress, but the truth is you're doing a lot of things that you're comfortable doing. It's more like a horizontal movement most of the time. So mentors are there, one, to help with the emotional support. It's very useful. And both on the technical side, too, and to kind of walk you through the process because they've been through all. So it's like cutting off a bunch of things that you would have learned the hard way through a long process. But I think the most important thing is, as a developer of any major project, like let's say Bitcoin Core or something like that, it will be good for, I mean, a lot of them do this already, but it would just be good for even more folks to do it, is to reach out to programs that help teach people to get into Bitcoin Core, contribute to Bitcoin Core, and specifically let them know what the do's and don'ts are, culturally speaking, and where the places that are under-resourced in terms of the project. Because the thing is, you don't want to have 100 new developers just come into Bitcoin Core, are going to mess up a bunch of stuff in terms of just being noisy. So it's a case of letting them know, okay, these are the things we'd like to have in terms of the new developers. These are the things they should be made aware of. And that way it's more of a collaborative approach, really. So you don't have like a bunch of noisy devs coming in and wrecking everything.
I think that I can start talking about one of the most important goals of Bitpolito, our student team in Polytechnic, because right now we are pushing a lot in that direction of getting new developers, because in our university there are a lot of students who are studying computer science, and so they are developers. And we are pushing a lot in that direction of communicating the Bitcoin values, the fully open source values, and then also train them and teach them, for example, any soft skills which can be useful, and in order to contribute in a open source environment, and also we are trying to create a direct connection between the students, which are the new talents, the new Bitcoiners developers. We kind of like trying to build up the bridge between them and the companies involved in Bitcoin. So that's also another important stuff. And the other two co-founders yesterday here have just announced the next year we will have the first executive master course in our university. And yeah, the details are gonna to be, of course, detailed, but yeah, the direction in general of the initiative is exactly that. So trying to teach all the Bitcoin values at first, because it creates the passion, which becomes a mission in a sense, and yeah, all what is needed to develop in our environment, and specific skills, but also soft skills, as I said before, which are recommended and useful for the Bitcoin companies.
Rockstar, any last words?
Yeah, build reputation, not compensation. What you were saying about passion is that passion for the project, you will need it, because most people start with their full-time job that sustains them, and then those hour or 2 or 3 that you spend on FOSS as you build your reputation, like really you need to be passionate about it. So that's how you kickstart, and yeah, apply the lessons from our young, meteoric
brilliant
rise,
panelists.
really. Yeah, like great panelists, and I love their FOSS contributions. I'm a big fan.
All right. Well, our time is up. Thanks for being here, and thanks to the panelists. Enjoy the rest of the conference.